Our today topic is constants. In previous lecture, we study about variables. Basically, variable is a container that hold an value, and value in variable can be changed. So if we want that our value cannot be changed, then we will work with constants. So constant is a variable. Constant is a variable, but its value cannot change once it has been assigned. When we assign a value to constant, it will not change. So when we need that our value will not change, then we use constants. Java does not have a built-in support for constants, but to define a variable as constant, we just need to add the keyword final in front of a variable declaration. So when we declare our variable, we add a keyword final. It makes our variable constant. So in short, constant is a variable whose value cannot change in the program once it has been assigned. So to make any variable constant, we use keyword final. Here is syntax for constant. So firstly, we write our keyword final. Final is our keyword. Then we use data type and variable name equals to value. So here I'm taking a variable declaration and initialization. To declare a variable, we use data type, then variable name, and to initialize, we use equal to value. So this is just our variable declaration and initialization. So we want to make it constant. We just add here a keyword final. So with now discuss about constants with the help of example. So we want to set value of pi. As we know, pi is fixed. Its value can be 22 divided by 7, or it can be 3.141592. So we want to make it constant. So firstly, we declare a variable pi whose data type is double and assigning value to variable pi 3.141592. So we want to make it constant. So that's why we adding here final keyword. So in short, when we declare and initialize a variable, if we use final keyword, it makes that variable constant. So now pi will be constant in whole program. If we want to update it, if we want to change value of pi in program by any operation like plus, minus, multiplication, then error message will be displayed. So here explanation is given to do. Final is keyword, double is our data type, pi is variable name, and 3.141592 is our value. So now discuss about constant with the help of an example. So in Java program, firstly, we will define a class. So here I'm defining a class const because our first letter must be capital. So this is our class name const, and this is body of our class. So in class, we define a main method, and in body of main method, we writing our code. So firstly, we want to define pi constant. So that's why final keyword is used here. We require to another variable for radius and storing area. Here we going to calculate area of a circle. As we know, area of circle formula is pi r square. So we use pi, value of pi. So firstly, we store our pi value as constant. So to another variable r for radius and area is required, then area equals to pi multiply r. So here area is calculated and result is stored in area. So after that we want to display it, so that's why we're using system.out.println. So if we want to update value of pi, then compiler will generate an error message. For example, like after displaying we want to use like pi equals to pi plus 100. If we writing like this in our program, means here value of pi will be updated after operation. So if we add operation like this, then error message will be generated because constant value cannot be changed. So now our next topic is scope of a variable in Java. In previous lecture, we study about variable and their types. So now we will study about scope of a variable. Firstly, what is scope of a variable? In simple words, we can say a location from which a variable can be accessed. So in programming, scope of a variable defines how a specific variable is accessible in the program or across classes. In programming, variable can be declared and defined inside class, method, and block. So we can define our variable inside any function known as local variables, inside class known as instance variables like. So we can define and declare a variable inside class, inside method, inside block. So scope of a variable is changed as per its location where our variable is defined and declared. So it defines the scope of a variable, means visibility of a variable. Variable declared inside a block or method are not visible to the outside. If we define and declare, if we declare and define a variable inside method, then outside the method variable cannot be used. If we try to do this, then our error message will be displayed to us. We can declare variable anywhere in program, but it has limited scope. We can declare our variable anywhere in the program, but its scope depend upon where we declare our variable. If we declare our variable inside the function, then it can be changed only inside the function. We cannot use that variable outside the function. So a variable can be defined and declared inside the body of method and constructor. It can also be defined inside blocks and loops. So when sometimes we write like for equals, sometimes we use loops like for, then here we use int I equals to 1. So we can define variable inside loops and blocks. So here we defining and declaring our variable inside the loop. So variable can be defined and declare anywhere in the program. We can define and declare it in class, method, loop, block as per our requirement. Variable declared inside main function cannot be accessed outside the main function. So we have three types of variable. First one is instance variable. We declare inside the class but outside the method. class and static variable, we declare our variable as static inside the class, and local variable, we declare and define our variable inside the method or a constructor. So scope of these variable are different as per their type. So now let us understand about the scope of variables. First one is instance variable. It declare inside the class but outside the method. So we can, its scope is throughout the class. We can use in class except in static methods. So we cannot use it in static methods. So lifetime of instance variable until object is available in memory. Because our instance variable is associated with objects, so its lifetime depend upon the lifetime of object. When object will be destroyed, instance variable will be destroyed. So instance variable, its lifetime until object is available in memory. When memory is deallocated from the object, instance variable will be destroyed. Its lifetime will be finished. Then class variable, through the class until the end of a program. So its lifetime is when end of program is arrived. Then local variable, we define and declare our variable within block, within function. So its lifetime when control leaves the block in which is it declare. We can say outside the body of a function. For example, we have a program like void sum. So this is body of our function, and in function we declare a local variable, because like int a equals to 10. So here we just add 20 in, and after that we display it. I'm writing it. So this variable a will be alive until this curly brace will be arrived. So here our variable is declared, means memory is allocated to variable. But when control arrive here, then memory will be deallocated from a variable a, because its lifetime within the body. So when controller leaves the block, because its block is this part, so when controller leaves the block, the local variable will be destroyed. So here are example that demonstrate the scope of different variables. First one is instance variable. We declare our variable inside the function but outside the inside the class but outside the function. So its scope will be class. Because for instance variable, scope of this variable will end at this curly braces. So until this curly braces control arrive at this curly brace, instance variable will be alive. Instance variable will not destroyed until this curly braces will be come. So here we defining a variable inside the function, int length. So length will be, the lifetime for length variable will be till this curly braces. When control come at this curly braces, the length variable will be destroyed. The lifetime of length variable will be ended. So here in for loop, we use another variable int I. So we declare and define our int I variable inside the loop. So it will be allocate memory till this curly braces. When this for loop will be ended and this curly brace control go outside this block, this curly braces, then this variable will be destroyed. So lifetime of this variable is scope, block scope. So now our topic is control statements. Java compiler execute the code from top to bottom. As we implement a program in our practical lab and also discuss program in lectures, all program executed from top to bottom, means statement executed one after one. Means if we starting from one, then second, third, fourth, fifth, so compiler execute code from top to bottom, in we can say in a sequence. The statement in code are executed according to the order in which they appear. However, Java provides statement that can be used to control the flow of Java code. Such statements are called control flow statement. So in Java provides us some statements that helps to control the flow of Java code, because our code executed from top to bottom. But if we want to change the flow of control, then we can use control statements. It is one of the fundamental feature of Java which provide a smooth flow of a program. So basically control statement is used when we want to change the flow of our control in Java program. So types of control statement. Basically control statements of three type: decision making, loop statement, and jump statements. These three types are further categorized. The decision making, from the name its work is clear, like decision making, yes or no. So here we have two types of statement: if statement, further if statement have several types like if statement, if else, if ladder, and second one is switch statement. So loop statement, in which we use loops. These can be of four type, like do while, for, and for each loop. Then jump statement, here two types of jump statement, like break and continue. So now we will discuss about these statements one by one. Firstly, decision making statement. From the name, it helps for decision making, to decide something. As the name suggests, decision making statement decide which statement to execute and when. Decision making statement evaluate the Boolean expression, and the control the program flow depend upon the result of condition provided. So if a Boolean result is evaluated and it is true, then block of block will be executed, otherwise it will be skipped. So now we will discuss about decision making statements one by one. The first one is if statement. If a statement is used to evaluate a condition, it is used to check a condition. The control of program is diverted depending upon the specific condition. So control will be diverted. Control will goes to a particular block depending upon a specific condition. If a condition is of if statement given gives a Boolean value, true or false. If our value is true, then control will execute that particular block, otherwise not. So if statement can be of four type: simple if statement, if else statement, if else, if ladder, and nested if. So firstly, we will study about the simple if statement. It is a basic statement among all the control flow statement in Java. It evaluate a Boolean expression and enable the program to enter a block of code if expression evaluate to true. So in if statement, a condition will be checked. If result is true, then block will be executed, otherwise skipped. Here syntax of if statement. If we want to use if statement, the syntax for if statement, firstly we will write if keyword. If is our keyword, then here condition. We can use relational operator like a greater than b, a greater than 10, like greater than, less than, equal to, not equals to conditions. We can also use our logical operator where we use and operator and or operator. So we can use these operator as per our requirement in a condition. So then body of our if statement is started. So this is block of if statement, we can see. And then in this block we write our statement as per our requirement, and these statement will be executed when condition is true, otherwise it will not executed. If condition is true, then compiler will enter in the block if condition is true. If condition is false, then controller will go outside the block, it will not enter in the block. If condition is false, then control will goes at this location, it will not enter in the block. So here is a simple program with if statement. We will discuss about it in short and implement in our practical lecture. Firstly, we define a class in which we define a main method, and in the body here we define a variable a which hold value 20, and we want to check number is even or not. So as we know, we divided any even number with 2, then the remainder will be 0. So for taking remainder, we using a modulus. When we write a modulus 2, it will return our remainder. So remainder, in case of when we divide any number with 2, the remainder can be 0 or 1. So if remainder is 0, our number is even, otherwise number is odd. So we compare our remainder with the 0. So here we using equals to for equal to check equality. If we writing here single equal, it will generate error because that is our assignment operator. So here we use a relational operator, so that's why double equal is used, and here remainder will be returned and remainder will be checked. If it is equals to 0, it means number is even, otherwise odd. So if condition is true, then control will execute this number is even, means enter in the block and printing number is even. Otherwise, if condition is false, then control will goes outside the statement and this message will not be printed. So now we see an example of if statement. So if our number is even, then it will display as number is even, otherwise it will not display any message. So we want to display a message if number is even, it will print number is even, and if it is not even, then it will display number is odd. So now in if else statement, if condition is, when if condition is false, then else block will be executed. So if else statement is extension of if statement in which another block of code is used, else block, and else block is executed if a condition of if block is evaluated as false, when our condition is false, else block will be executed. So here if is our keyword and their condition can be our relational operator and logical operator, and it is block of if statement. So in this we writing our code as per requirement. So then else statement and block of else statement. So in block of else statement we can write our statements as per our requirement. So in this, when condition is true, whenever condition is true, then control will goes in this block, means if statement block will be executed. But when our condition is false, for example our condition is false, then control will goes to the else part and this block will be executed. So now we will discuss about if else statement with the help of an example. So in simple, if our condition is true, then else block will be executed. If our condition is false, then else block will be executed. So here similarly we want to check our number is even or odd. Firstly, we will define a class, and in class we define a main method. So in main method, firstly we declare and initialize a variable n and storing value 13 in end. So in if conditions, again we check our remainder equals to 0 or not. So here we writing a condition to check remainder equals to 0. So in if statement we want to display number is even. So for displaying system.out.println is used and it will display number is even. If a condition is false, then else block will be executed. So in else block we want to display it is odd number. So here condition will be false. So that's why else block will be executed, because 13 is not even number. Its remainder will be 1, that is not equals to 0. So next type of if statement is if else if ladder. So if else if statement contain if statement followed by multiple else if statements. In other words, we can say it is a chain of if else statement that create a decision tree where the program may enter in block of code where the condition is true. We can also define an else statement at the end of chain. So in this, firstly we define a if condition, and then else if can be number of else if can be in our program that depend upon our requirement. So at the end we define a else statement. Let us understand about this with help of syntax. So in else statement, so in if else if statement, firstly we writing our if keyword and its condition. For example, we want to check like a greater than b, that is false. For example, a is not greater than b. So then we want to check like a greater than c. So here we want, and similarly, and for this we use else if condition. Here another condition will be defined, and at the end we defining else statement. So each statement have its block, their block that will be executed when condition will be true. For example, if condition is false, else if condition is also false, then at last else will be executed. And if statement, for example, our if statement is true, it will be executed and remaining portion will be skipped. And another example, for example, first condition is false but second condition is true, then compiler will not check these statements and cannot will not execute our else statement. So in this compiler firstly check first condition, if it is false then next, and until condition will be true or else block is arrived, control will goes to the next condition. If any condition is true, that block will be executed and remaining part will be skipped. And if all conditions are true, all conditions are false, then at the end compiler will execute else block. Now discuss about this with help of an example. For example, we want to display grade of a student depending upon the percentage. For example, if student marks is less than 100 but equals to and greater than 19, grade will be A plus, and grade will be A if number is lie between 80 and 90. So here multiple condition will be checked. So we use if else if ladder statement. So in program firstly we define a class, and in class we define a main function. So here we use a variable marks which store value of marks, that is 65. So we want to check which grade will be allocated to this student, and it will depend upon the value of marks. So firstly we check marks is less than 50. For example, we consider marks is less than 50, means 0 to 49 student will be fail. So if marks is less than 50, then student will be fail, it will be displayed. These curly braces are block of if statement and else if statement. For example, this is a block. So then condition is false because our number is not less than 50. So next condition will be checked. Marks is greater than 50, true. Marks is less than 60, that is false. But in AND operator, both condition must be true. So that's why this condition will be false, because one condition is false and one condition is true. So next condition, marks is greater than 60. That is okay because our marks is 65, that is greater than 60, that is true. And marks is less than 70, that is also true. So true and true condition will be true. So this block will be executed. For example, this is false, then it will check again next statement. For example, it is also false, then check next, and at the end it will execute else block if all conditions are false. So here our this condition is true, so that's why this block will be executed. So if else ladder if is used when we have a requirement to check number of conditions for a operation. For example, here a number of conditions can be checked and output will be displayed as per our requirement. So if first condition will be checked, remaining remaining blocks will be skipped, will not be checked. So if first one is in false, then the next will be checked, and controller will goes to the next although our condition is true or else part will be arrived. Then our last type of if statement is nested if. In nested if, the if statement can contain a if or if else statement inside another if or else if statement. So in if and else statement, we see firstly we have if statement and then else part. So if we want to check any another if inside the if or inside the else part, then we can use a nested if. So firstly we see syntax for if statement. Nested if statement. Here we have a condition for if statement. Firstly, like we check a greater than b. For example, if it is correct and then we want to compare with c, a greater than c. So if this condition is true, then another condition will be checked. So for this we use another if inside this. Here we use just a simple if statement. We can also use nested if statement in if else statement. Like here writing in slide, like we can use it if statement and else if statement. This is syntax for if statement. So inside the if we use another if and if statement like this. And this else part is of this condition, means inside the if statement we use if else statement. So if this statement will be true, then control will goes inside and this condition will be checked. For example, this condition is also true, then compiler will execute this statement. If this condition is false, for example, first condition is true but this condition is false, then else part will be executed. And if outer if is false, then control will not enter in the block. So we can say if our outer if statement is true, then inner if statement will be checked. So now we will discuss about this with the help of an example. For example, we want to find greatest number among 3. So firstly, we define a class and inside the class, we define a main method. Here we use 3 variables having different value A, B and C. Firstly, we check A is greater than B. So here A is 36 and B is 35. So our condition is true. So controller will goes inside the block. And here again a new condition is checked. A is greater than C. Because A is greater than B, but it can be smaller than C. So here we will again check A is greater than C. A is 36, but C is 56. Condition is false. So that's why control will goes to the else part, because whenever if is false, else part will be executed. So output will be displayed that C is greatest. 56 is greatest. For example, if A is smaller than B, condition will be false. Condition will be false. Control will goes at else part and enter in the block of this else part. So here, because B is greater than A now, so again B will checked with C. If B is greater than C, it means B is greater, otherwise C is the greatest. So it will execute when condition is false. Our next statement is switch statement. In Java, switch statement are similar to else if statement. The switch statement contain multiple blocks of code called cases, and a single case is executed based on variable which is being switched. So similarly, like our ladder, if in switch statement we can check multiple conditions, and multiple block can be executed as per condition. Only one block will be executed uh, for which condition is true. So here we can also check multiple conditions. We can say the switch statement is easier to use. Instead of if else if statement, it is also enhance the readability of the program. So switch statement is easy to use than if else if statement. The expression of switch statement must be result in integral type, means an integer or a character. So condition of case, we can use integer or a character. We cannot use any float, we cannot use any boolean value, short, long, byte we cannot use. Cases cannot be duplicate. So in switch we cannot use duplicate cases. Default statement is executed when any case does not match the value of the expression. It is optional. So like in if else if all the conditions are false, then else part will be executed. Similarly in switch, if all the cases are false, then a default case will be executed. And break statement terminate the switch block when condition is satisfied. It is optional. If not used, next case will be executed. While using switch statement, we must notice that case expression will be of same type of as a variable. However, it will be also be a constant value. So in a switch, our case expression and variable both must be of same type. So now let us discuss about these points with the help of syntax and example. So firstly, syntax for switch. In switch, firstly we use keyword switch. This is our keyword, and here we writing our expression. It can be any condition, any variable we pass here. So here we pass our variable. So then we write our case and its value. It can be integer or character, means we can write 1, 2, 3, and we can write characters like a, small a, capital A, and then it end with the colon. And then we write our statement like we want to display it is vowel. So here we use system.out.println for displaying, and then we write a break. When we use break, if this case will be true, the remaining part will be skipped. If we not writing break here, each case will be checked and output will be displayed if a condition is true. So for example, we can write number of cases as per a requirement. So at the end we write our default statement. When all the cases will be false, this case will be executed, and then we write here our statement for a default block. So another point we reading in previous slide, like variable type and case type must be same. Means type of this expression, here we pass a variable, and type of this value must be same. So now let us understand about a switch statement with help of example. Here we use scanner class because we want to take input from the user. So that's why firstly we import scanner class, then then define a class, and inside the class we define a main method. Firstly we create object of scanner class S, and then we use 3 variable A, B, and CH. So firstly we ask to user enter value of A and enter A with the help of int next. next int function. Similarly, b will be entered by user. So here two values of a and b will be entered by user. So now we want to display a message to user like enter 1 if he or she want to perform addition, enter 2 for subtraction. See, this message will be displayed to the user. So as per this, user will enter her or his choice. For example, user enter here 3. So in a switch statement, here will be another statement after entering choice, like because when a user enter a value for her choice, it will be stored. So here our statement is missing, like ch equals to s dot next int. So choice of user will be stored in ch. So we pass this variable to switch. For example, we entering 3. So 3 will be passed here. So first case 1. So here if a value entered by user is 1, then this will be executed. So our value is 3, so this case will not be executed. And then case 2 will be checked, but our value is 3, so this case is also false. Then case 3, and our value is also 3, so this case will be executed, and in block this will be displayed to the user, and multiplication is implemented. So here break. So that's why controller will not goes to this block, because break skip the control outside the this body block. Break helps to transfer the control outside the block. So that's why our control will goes outside the body. You can also add here case for division, like case 4, and in this we can write system.out println division is, and we can write a divide b, and we can write a break. For example, here we skip a break. We are not writing skip in any case. So like and user enter 3, this will be executed, and here is not break is written by you, then default will also execute every time, because break transfer control outside the block. But if we skip this, then control will goes to the next statement. This is all about our decision making statements. So now we will study about our looping statements. In programming, sometimes we need to execute a block of code repeatedly while some condition evaluates to true. However, loop statements are used to execute set of instructions in a repeated order. The execution of set of instructions depend upon a particular conditions. So sometimes we want to repeat a block of code. So looping statement helps us to repeat a block of code where a condition will be checked. If condition is true, then loop will repeat that block. If condition is false, then loop will be terminated. So in Java, there is 3 types of loops: for loop, while loop, do while loop. So now we will discuss about each loop one by one. Firstly, we have for loop. It is similar to C, C++. Firstly, we will initialize variable, a loop variable like I equals to 1. Then we check a condition and then increment or decrement in a single line of code. We use for loop only when we exactly know number of time we want to execute the block of code. So it is similar to C. Here firstly we initialize, then we check a condition, and then increment or decrement. But we can use for loop when we know number of times we want to execute loop in advance. For example, if we want to execute loop 5 time, 10 time, but if I don't know about how many time a loop I want to execute, then we cannot use for loop. So syntax for loop: firstly for keyword, firstly for keyword, firstly we use for keyword, then initialization, then condition, increment, decrement. We can skip initialization, condition, increment, decrement as per our requirement, but we have to write semicolon between these. And then block of for loop is started. This is block of for statement, and in the block of this for statement we can write our statement as per our requirement. So now understand about for loop with the help of an example. So firstly we initialize, when start firstly initialization means we writing I equals to 1. Then we can check a condition I less than or equals to like 2. If condition is true, if condition is true, then statement will be executed. If condition is false, statement will not executed, and for our for loop will be terminated. So now discuss about this with the help of an example. We want to calculate sum of first 10 natural numbers. So firstly we define a class, and in class we define a main method. Firstly sum will be 0 because add initially no two values is added, so I store 0 in sum variable. So it will be started from 1 and goes till 10. So firstly we initialize our loop variable 1. So we here we initialize our variable inside the loop. You can also write here like int j, and then here use j equals to 1. You can also initialize inside the for loop. Then we check a condition. So we know that our value will be, our loop will be executed till 10. So j will be true until unless it is less than 10 or equals to 10. So that's why condition is writing here j is less than or equals to 10. Then we increment our j variable for next time. So firstly j is 1, condition is true, for loop will be entered, and 0 and 1 will be executed. Similarly 10 time for loop will be executed. For example, now j incremented to 10. 10 not less than 10 but equals to 10. Condition is true and control will be enter the for loop. Now value will be incremented 10 to 11. And now when 10 is less than or equals to 10, condition is false. So that's why for loop will be terminated. Means at this condition, our control will goes outside the block and sum of 10 natural number will be printed. initially we have j equals to 1 like this, and 1 is less than or equals to 10, and j plus plus means our j become now 2. 1 plus 1 is 2. So condition is true because 1 is less than or equals to j. So inside the body, sum equals to sum plus I. Value of sum is 0 and our j value now is 1. So value stored after addition in sum is 1. So next time, now our j equals to 2 because after increment j become 2. So again condition will be checked like 2 less than or equals to 10. So condition is true. Control will enter the body and after the increment j become 3. It will be used for next time. So here sum equals to sum plus. Now value of sum is 1. So 1 plus j. Now j is 2 equals to 3. So now j equals to 3 because after increment j become 3. So again 3 is less than or equals to 10. So condition is true. It again enter in the body. It will continue till our j become 10. And when our j become 11, condition will be false. For example, j become 11. So now 11 less than or equals to 10, our condition become false and control transferred outside the block. And the sum will be displayed. Sum of first 10 natural number will be displayed. So our next loop is for each loop. Java provides an enhanced for loop to traverse the data structure like array or collection. So in for each loop, we don't need to update the loop variable. So here we use a array or any collection, and here there is no need to update the loop variable. So syntax for the for each loop is firstly for keyword, then a data type variable name, like we want to assign a variable. So after colon there will be a array name and a collection, and in the body of a for loop we can write our statements. So now let us understand with the help on for an example. So in main function, firstly we create a string. So here we write string keyword used for data type string, and in braces we not pass any value. So size of string can be variable. Number of we can say values can be stored in a string. If we write a 10, then we can only insert 10 values in this string. So that's why we remain it empty. So here names is our string name, and equals to, then we assigning value to this string which name is names. So in names here 5 value is stored: Java, C, C++, Python and JavaScript. As we know, in string value is stored like a string name like names index 0, at index 0 here storing is Java, at index 1 C is stored as index 3, C++ is stored. So at 4 Python is stored. As 2 is skipped, At 2, C++ is stored as 3, Python is stored as 4, index 4, JavaScript is stored. So now we want to print the content of array. So we start a for loop. Here firstly we declare a variable. So again a new variable string n. N variable is declared of a string type because here value is a string type. So that's why we use a variable string n and colon names. So now it refer to the names. So first time control will be here. So at first time for loop will be executed print system.out.println n. So value of n will be printed. So n now pointing to the index 0 in which Java is stored. So Java will be printed. So again next time control will goes to the next value. So now C will be displayed, then C++ we will displayed. Similarly Python and JavaScript is displayed. When JavaScript is displayed, control will goes to the next, but now it refer to the null reference because here is end of a string. So now for loop will be terminated and control will goes outside the block. So here we are not initialize and not update value of variable, we just assign a array in for loop. So our next loop is while loop, because for each loop is just enhanced version of for loop. So our second loop is while loop. As we know, when we use for loop, the number of iteration must be known in advance. But if we don't know number of iteration in advance, then we can use while loop. While loop is also used to iterate over the number of statements multiple time. If we don't know number of iteration in advance, it is recommended to use a while loop. Unlike for loop, initialization, increment, decrement do not take place inside the loop statement in while loop. As we know, firstly we write keyword for and then we initialize and increment, decrement, but in while loop we not initialize and increment, decrement in loop statement. It is also known as entry controlled loop because condition is checked at the entry point, we can say at the starting of the loop. So that's why we called it entry controlled loop. If condition is true, then loop body will be executed, otherwise statement after the loop will be executed, body of loop will not be executed if condition is false. So firstly, syntax of the while loop. Firstly we write keyword while and then we write our condition, then body of looping statement will be started. So flow chart, firstly it start and check condition true. If condition is false, it will transfer control outside the body of loop. If it is true, then it will enter into the body of a loop statement. So let us discuss about while loop with the help of an example. So in main function, firstly we initialize and declare and initialize a variable I equals to 0. So we want to print 10 even numbers. So firstly it will check condition like I is less than or equals to 10. If condition is true, control will enter into the body of loop. So it will print 0. And after printing 0, the value will be updated by 2. So here we updated the value of I, like I equals to I plus 2. When value will be updated, then again condition will be checked. So after this, control will goes here. Now value of I is firstly we have value 0, less than or equals to 10. Condition is true and it will be printed on the screen. After printing, next statement is update value of I. So now I become 2 because 0 plus 2, 2. So again condition will be checked. Condition is true, it will enter into the body and 2 will be displayed on the screen. So again value of I is updated by 2. 2 plus 2, 4. So again condition is checked, it is true and control entered in the body. So 4 is displayed. After displaying, it will updated by 2. So again condition will be checked. Condition is true. For 8 also condition is true and it will be displayed on the screen. When it become 10, condition is true because although 10 is not less than 10 but it is equals to 10. So condition is true and it control will enter into the body and it is displayed on the screen. But after displaying, 10 is updated by 2, 12. Now it become 12, I become 12. So now when condition is checked, it become false. And when condition become false, control will transferred outside the loop of body of a loop. So now control will not enter into the body and loop will be terminated. So our next loop is do while loop. Do while loop check a condition at the end of loop after executing the loop statement. When the number of iteration is not known, we have to execute loop at least once and we use do while loop. So in do while loop, condition is check at the end of loop, and we use when we use do while loop, then we don't know number of iterations in advance and we want to execute loop at once, because if condition is true, it then also it will execute at least once, because condition is checked after execution. It is known as exit control loop because condition is checked at exit, we can say at the end of a loop. So condition is not checked in advance, so that's why it is known as exit controlled loop. So syntax for do while loop is, firstly we use do keyword and then body of loop will be started, and when body of loop is terminated, then we write while keyword and there we check our condition. So let us understand about this with the help of an example. Do means firstly statement will be executed first time and then condition will checked. If condition is false, it is terminated. If condition is true, then it will execute statements. So although our condition is false, it will execute at least once. So here an example of do while loop. In our main method, we declare and initialize a variable I having value 0 and we want to display first 10 even numbers. So do firstly it will print 0 and incremented by 2. Now condition is checked. For example, if we have value 12, for example, we initialize our value 12. I equals to 12. So now here 12 will be displayed and now it become 14. And After this condition now is checked, 14 is less than or equals to 10. Our condition is false, but at least one value is displayed. So this is working of do while loop. Now our third category of statement, jump statements. Jump statement are used to transfer the control of the program to the specific statement. When we want to jump, when we want to transfer the control of program, then we use jump statement. In other words, jump statement transfer the execution control to the other part of the program. There is two type of jump statement, break and continue. So we use break in switch statement. So break helps to stop the flow of control and transfer control outside the body to the next statement. So as name suggests, break statement is used to break the control flow of the program and transfer the control to the next statement outside a body or switch statement. So break transfer the control outside the body to next statement. However, it breaks only inner loop in case of nested loop. For example, we use nested loop and a break is used in inner loop. So it will transfer control outside the inner loop. Break statement cannot be used independently in the Java program. So we cannot use break statement independently. We can use it inside any loop inside switch statement. It is used to exit early from the loop by skipping the remaining statement of loop or switch control statement. As we know, if in a switch statement first case is true, the remaining cases will be skipped. So break helps to skipping the remaining statement of loop and switch control statements. So here is again I am adding example of switch statement that is discussed in our switch statement. So that's why again I am not explaining about it. So now the last one is continue statement. Continue statement also skip remaining statement of body. Like break statement, it also skip remaining statement of body, but in break statement control goes outside the loop body of loop, but in continue statement control is transferred to the beginning of loop for next iteration. The loop continue until test condition of loop become false. So here control is not goes at starting at beginning for next iteration. Let us understand about it with help of an example. Here in our class, in outer loop, there is a nested for loop. First one is our outer for loop and second one is our inner loop for loop. Firstly, m equals to n, f equals to 1. M equals to 1 as we know, and n is greater than or equals to 3. Condition is true. So we enter in our next loop. Now n is equal to 1. N is less than 2. Condition is true. So now m equals to n. As we know, m equals to 1 and n equals to 1. So condition is true. So condition is true. And in the body of if, here we're writing a continue, and continues means control will goes at the initial. So control will goes initial, because this is a block of, or this is this inner for loop, body of inner for loop is block of this continue. So that's why control will goes to the inner loop for next iteration. So now n become 2. 2 is less than 2, condition is false, so that's why outer loop will be, control will goes at outer loop. So now m become 2, 2 less than or equals to 3, again condition is true. So now n is 1 less than 2, condition is true. Now we have m equals to 2 and n equals to 1. So this if condition is false because 2 equals to 1 is false. So when it is false, now if it is false, so control goes outside the body of if, so it will be printed on the screen. So continue help to the skip. Firstly we have so now output will be like m equals to 2 and n equals to 1. So continue helps to skip m equals to 1 and n equals to 1. It is skipped by continue. So continue skip remaining portion and transfer control at the beginning, because at first when this condition is true, due to continue the remaining portion, this is our remaining portion is skipped. So this is all about our control statements. We will implement program about control statement in our practical lab.